Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere your history teacher definitely skipped over. We're not talking about powdered wigs or polished fleets, we're talking about the dark, violent, and weirdly damp reality of life on a pirate ship. No treasure map, no Johnny Depp, just you, an ocean of salt, okay, and 100 angry strangers who haven't bathed in months. You're barefoot. It's the middle of the night. Rain hits your face sideways like spit from the sky. The deck under your feet sways like it's drunk, and you're pretty sure your stomach is about to mutiny. Something just skittered past your toes. A rat? A crab? You don't have time to check, because someone just screamed, heave, you surdid maggots. And that includes you. You won't last a day here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. It's always amazing to see where this sleepy crew is tuning in from. Turn off the lights, grab a cozy blanket, and get ready, cause our journey tonight is about to begin. You don't wake up gently. You wake up with a jolt as the ship kicks sideways, knocking your hip into a damp wooden beam. Everything is dark, close, wet. Something's moving above your feet, stomping in panic, voices shouting, but creaking like it might give way. You sit up, fast, and immediately regret it. Your neck is stiff, your back aches, and your face is sticky from what you hope is seawater. The place around you is pitch black. Here in the lower deck, stuffed like laundry in a drawer with a dozen other bodies. Some sleep, some snore. One is whispering to himself, repeating the same prayer over and over. You hear dripping, steady, mocking, and a sickening slosh every time the ship rolls. Something's spilled, died. You're still half asleep when you hear the command, all hands on deck, storm brewing. Your body reacts before your brain does. You crawl through swinging hammocks and cold ropes, knock your head on a low beam, will stumble toward the only source of light, a vertical ladder, slick with salt, and who dash knows dash what dash else dot, and then blinding light. You're hit by rain, wind, and the raw noise of the open sea. Thunder cracks somewhere far off, and the sky above is blackened and low like a ceiling about to fall. The ship is alive beneath you, groaning, tipping, roaring, and the men, not a single calm face among them. They move fast, practiced. You don't? You're in the way, and they know it. A man twice your size slams a coil of rope into your chest. Lash it down. He barks. You don't know what it is. You don't know what lash means. You just know that something has gone horribly wrong with your life. You try to obey, fumble with knots you've never tied, slip on wet planks, nearly get your fingers caught in a winch. You hear laughter, sarcastic and not at all friendly. Someone calls you wormbait. Another mutters something about shark chum. You don't ask questions. Everywhere you look, the ship is chaos. Men fighting sails that whip in the wind, perils rolling loose, one crashing overboard, a chicken flapping wildly in terror. Yes, they kept chickens. And through it all, the captain stands near the helm, like he's carved from stone eyes, scanning the horizon, his coat billowing dramatically, clearly the only one enjoying himself. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the storm veers off like the ocean changed its mind. The rain slows, the men relax, and you collapse. You sit against the mast, soaked and shaking, while the ship settles under your backside like a beast returning to sleep. You notice now how everything stinks. Damp, canvas, sweat, rot, something metallic blood. The deck is littered with ropes, broken bits of wood, and one very dead fish. And just when you think it's over, the real boss appears. The bosun. He's a walking pile of anger, wrapped in scars and tattoos. His eyes are yellowish. His teeth are negotiable. He leans in close and says, "Dead weight gets tossed," then walks off. You're pretty sure that was a motivational speech. Now, officially part of the crew. Sore, you're put to work. No one explains anything. You're expected to know it all already, which is funny, because the closest you've come to a rope before this was a shoelace. You get yelled at for tying things wrong, for walking wrong, for breathing wrong. Historians still argue whether pirate crews were better than navies in how they treated new recruits. Some say pirates were more democratic elected captains, shared plunder. Others point out that, honestly, it was still mostly violence and threats, just with cooler outfits. One fringe account even claims some ships used trial by rat to settle disputes you don't want to know. But right now, your only trial is lunch. A tin bowl is thrust into your hands. It contains something gray, lumpy, and moving slightly. Smells like boiled sock. You eat it anyway, because the last guy who didn't was thrown into bilge duty, which apparently involves a bucket in the part of the ship no one talks about. As you choke it down, you spot a man picking bugs from his beard and smiling like he found dessert. Another is sharpening a blade while humming Greensleeves. A third is weeping into his tankard. You wonder, what did I sign up for? And as night falls again, and you lie back down in that damp wooden coffin they call a bunk, your final thought before drifting into a nightmare-filled doze is, there's no way I'm pooping in that barrel. But trust me, you will. You wake up to shouting again, only this time, it's not the chaos of a storm. It's routine, loud, grimy, aggressive routine. A man is hollering about mopping the deck, another about powder checks, and somewhere off to your left, a very hoarse voice is singing something that might be a sea shanty or just a list of regrettable life choices. You sit up slowly, neck stiff and skin clammy. There's a new bruise on your arm. You don't remember how it got there. Your shirt smells like mildew. Everything smells like mildew. You stretch, bump your head on the low beam again, and climb out of your hammock, more like roll and fall. The floor creaks beneath you, like it's judging your every move. Welcome to day 2. You've survived your first night aboard a pirate ship, barely. But now comes something even more exhausting than storms or shouting. Chores. Forget treasure hunts and sword fights. The real pirate life is an endless rotation of unpleasant duties you didn't sign up for. And because you're the new recruit, or bilge rat, as one very toothless sailor called you, you get the worst of them. Your first task, swabbing the deck. Yes, the classic mop pan bucket stereotype is real. Pirates didn't do it for cleanliness. They did it to keep the wooden planks from drying out and cracking under the tropical sun. A dry deck could splinter, warp, even catch fire. So every morning, someone, usually you, is out there, barefoot, splashing briny water and scrubbing away dried fish guts and whatever someone vomited last night. You grip the rope mop like a sword, but it feels more like a punishment. Stick. One sailor laughs at your technique. Another joins in. Third helpfully demonstrates how to mop. K. While dribbling the filth directly onto your boots. You smile politely and plan your revenge. But before you get too far into your mop fantasy, someone shouts, "Time to feed the pigs." You blink. Surely, that's a metaphor. Nope. Down in the lower hold are 2 actual pigs, squealing, muddy, and just as seasick as you are. Alongside them, 3 chickens, 1 angry goat, and a parrot that only says, "Shut it, hey," in an oddly Scottish accent. The animals are essential cargo, meant for meat and eggs, and in the parrot's case, morale, but they poop everywhere, constantly. And today, you're the poop cleaner. The hold is darker than your soul right now. The air is thick, like soup left out in the sun. You try to breathe through your mouth, but it's no use. You slip at least twice. Your shirt gets chewed on by the goat, and the parrot keeps yelling, "Shut it," like a pirate-themed Alexa. 1 chicken pecks your ankle. If you consider crying, you don't, but it's close. By the time you're back on deck, you're covered in what can only be politely described as livestock residue. A passing crewman holds his nose. Another pats you on the back, leaves a handprint, and says, "Welcome aboard, landlubber." Historians still debate how much work was truly shared aboard pirate ships. Some records show surprisingly democratic behavior. Pirates could vote, elect officers, and even receive medical compensation for injuries, a kind of proto-workers' comp. Other evidence suggests that once the vote was cast, discipline could be brutal. A lazy swapper might get the lash, and no, not the mascara kind. Still, compared to life in the Navy, pirate ships could be oddly progressive. One scholar even unearthed a record of pirates allowing crew members to retire and open taverns. So, there is hope if you lived that long. Back on deck, you're assigned to Rat Patrol. Now, there's no official title for this job, probably because no one wanted to admit it existed. But ships, especially old, creaky, food-stocked pirate ships, are rat paradises. They chew ropes, eat grain, and spread disease. Catching them is a full-time job. And now, it's yours. You're given a stick and a candle. That's it. You descend once again into the bowels of the ship. The deepest part, the candle flickers. The walls feel moist. And then you see them. Eyes, tiny, glinting. Dozens of them, staring back at you. The rats know you're coming, and they're not impressed. You chase them through barrels and rope coils, swatting blindly. One runs across your foot. Another vanishes into a hole that seems to breathe. You find a nest. You don't want to talk about what's inside. Hey, let's just say you now understand why some pirates got scurvy and others just gave up entirely. One fringe theory even suggests some pirates domesticated rats as pets, claimed they brought luck, or at least entertainment. You don't know if that's true, but one rat does seem to follow you now. You name him Clive. You don't know why. By midday, the sun is high and punishing. You're sent to help in the galley, the ship's kitchen, though that word is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. The cook is a bald man with one ear and zero patience. He hands you a knife and points to a bucket of potatoes that smells suspiciously like they've seen several previous lives. You peel, you cut, you wince. The knife is dull, your fingers are clumsy, and the potatoes are judgmental. The cook grunts, occasionally mutters about seaborne idiots, and, at one point, chases you out with a ladle. You finally escape topside, just in time for rigging drills. Imagine trying to climb a jungle gym, blindfolded, barefoot, and, during an earthquake, the ropes swing, the sails snap. You try to act brave, but your legs wobble like jelly. One misstep, and you're a cautionary tale. And the worst part, everyone else makes it look easy. One man ties a knot one-handed while eating a fish. Another balances on the spar like it's a tightrope. Someone shouts, "Don't look down," which of course means you do, and instantly regret it. Your arms ache, your palms blister. You hang there, clinging to a rope, feeling about as useful as a teacup in a sword fight. Then the bell rings, time for rest, which really just means you won't die from this job yet. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the deck calms. Men gather in clusters, mending nets, carving wood, or gambling with coins that may or may not be cursed. One plays a fiddle, another tells a story about a ghost ship with glowing eyes. You find a spot near the rail, stare at the sea, and try to forget the taste of Rat Patrol. You've made it through your first full day, barely, and just as you're thinking maybe you can handle this life, the bosun walks by, chuckles darkly, and mutters, "Tomorrow's leech duty." You don't ask, you don't want to know. You just go below deck, curl up in your hammock, and whisper to yourself, "I should have been an accountant." You don't wake up, you're woken up by a bucket of seawater to the face. It's cold, it's salty, it's personal. The crew roars with laughter as you sputter and sit up, soaked and stunned. One of them mutters, "Rise and shine, Barnacle." Another adds, "Captain wants all hands on deck." You're still rubbing salt out of your eyes when you realize something's different this morning. There's tension in the air, not the usual chaos, something heavier. Sky is a dull bruise of gray and green. The wind snaps with strange energy, and up above, the lookouts shout pierces the air, "Sail off the port bow." That's when it hits you. Today is fight day. You scramble topside. The horizon is no longer empty. There, gliding like a shark, is another ship, sleeker, faster, and clearly armed. You can't tell if it's a merchant vessel, a rival pirate crew, or worse, a naval warship. No one tells you which. They just start handing out weapons, and by weapons, we mean questionable objects, rusted cutlasses, at least says, that look like they last fired during the Crusades. One guy arms himself with a table leg and a terrifying grin. You're given a small axe and no instructions. Try not to die. someone says, and slaps your back. Before the first shot is fired, the ship explodes into motion. Orders are shouted. Sails twist and groan as the crew manipulates the rigging with terrifying speed. Cannon crews scramble to their stations, shoving gunpowder and iron balls into ancient, wheezing artillery. You, of course, are assigned to the powder run, the job of the unlucky soul who carries black powder from the hold to the cannons. Fast, you dash down into the belly of the ship, where kegs of gunpowder sit like explosive pumpkins in a fire hazard waiting to happen. You grab a leather pouch, fill it, and run, the wood creaking under your feet, the whole ship swaying dangerously. You trip, you recover, you do it again. The first cannon fires, the boom shakes your bones, your ears ring, smoke floods the deck. Someone screams with excitement. You hope, you deliver the pouch to the gunner, who immediately shoves it into the cannon's belly and lights the fuse. Another boom, and then return fire. A cannonball tears through the foremast with splinters. Men duck. One loses his hat and lets out a scream. That's mostly annoyance. You drop for cover instinctively, only to be yelled at, "Move, or I feed you to the sharks myself." You move. Historians still argue how common actual ship-to-ship combat was among pirates. Some claim most pirate encounters ended in surrender. Intimidation was often enough. Others suggest battles like this happened more often than we think, especially when valuable cargo or grudges were involved. What is certain, it was nothing like in the movies. There are no elegant duels, no dramatic speeches, just chaos, smoke, and yelling, and sometimes fire. Yes, fire. You smell it before you see it. Something burning near the aft rigging, a spark from a fuse, maybe. You grab a bucket, splash it wildly, and somehow manage to put it out. Someone cheers, another shouts, "That's 2 days off leech duty." You don't know what that means, but you accept it. The captain appears, finally. His coat is red, his hat enormous, and his expression somewhere between delighted and demented. He brandishes a cutlass and bellows, "Boarding time." Wait, what? The ships are that close now? Yes, the enemy vessel is nearly brushing against your own. Grappling hooks fly, ropes are tied. Suddenly, your pirate crew is leaping across the gap like caffeinated gymnasts. You're not ready, not even close. Someone shoves you forward. You, first. You freeze. You consider your options. You jump and barely make it. You land with a crash, scraping your knee and immediately getting kicked by a rival sailor. The axe in your hand is too heavy. You swing, miss, swing again, hit something. The man falls back. You don't ask if he's okay. That seems beside the point. The fight is fast, brutal, and messy. Men shout, weapons clash. Someone bites someone. You try not to be stabbed. That becomes your full-time job. Dodging, ducking, surviving. One pirate swings from a sail rope like it's Cirque du Soleil and kicks 2 people overboard. Another drops from above, screaming surprise, before immediately getting punched. You're bleeding from the elbow, you've lost a shoe, and you're pretty sure you just stepped in marmalade. Why is there marmalade? Eventually, the tide turns. The enemy captain, a wiry man with a beard like seaweed, surrenders. Hands are raised, weapons drop. Your side cheers, victory. Sort of. You helped. You survived. You're shaking. Sit down, back against a barrel, and try not to throw up. Later, the ships are unhooked and drifting apart. Your crew goes through the spoils. Barrels of salted fish, bolts of cloth, a few coins, and a crate of books. Someone immediately tosses those overboard. It's too many big words. They grumble. You think of saving one. You don't? Quirky fact. Some pirate ships genuinely preferred boarding over cannon combat. It preserved the cargo and required less gunpowder, which was expensive. Also, pirates sometimes offered surrendered crews a choice: join us or swim. The swim was rarely metaphorical. That night, there's a feast. Not a royal banquet, more like slightly improved slop. Someone roasts a fish. Someone else brings out rum. Singing. Someone starts carving tally marks into the mast, each one for a ship taken. They offer you a knife. You hesitate, then carve your first mark. It's crooked, still counts, and just as you start to feel, dare we say it, Proud, the captain saunters over. Not bad for a bilge rat, he says. Then adds, tomorrow, you're on sail patching. Hope you like needles. You nod, trying not to look disappointed. You go below deck, bones aching, heart still racing. You survived a pirate battle, fought, bled, lived. You collapse into your hammock. The ship rocks. Somewhere above, the parrot yells, shut it. Psh. You smile, despite yourself. You shut it. You wake up, and your arms won't move. No, they're still attached. You're not ghosting out of your body. It's just that everything hurts. Your shoulders scream. Your lower back feels like it lost a bar fight. Even your fingers throb, which seems unfair considering how little they actually did yesterday. Welcome to pirate muscle fatigue. You try to sit up. Your hammock swings unhelpfully, and for a second, it feels like you're being gently mocked by fabric. Someone walks by and laughs. First Riddell do that to ya, they say, slapping your foot. Wait till your second. It's no time to dwell. The ship's already moving. A new day has begun, and with it, a new nightmare. Sail repair. Turns out, cannonballs don't just damage people. They tear sails, snap rigging, and fray ropes into spaghetti, okay? And guess whose lucky name got pulled for mending duty? Yours. You're tossed a massive curved needle the length of your forearm and a bundle of wax twine. Someone gestures to the torn mainsail flapping above like a wounded wing. Get up there. Up out there. You look at the mast. It looks back at you. You try to remember if you've ever climbed anything taller than a staircase. Spoiler, you haven't. You climb. The rope ladder is less a ladder and more a suggestion. It sways with the ship, swings with the wind. You dangle, slip, and at least once, yelp like a startled goat. But eventually, miraculously, you reach the spar. Now comes the real test, balancing on a beam thinner than your confidence, while sewing canvas that smells like damp disappointment. You stab your finger within the first 3 minutes. You curse quietly. Remember, PG-13. One of the older pirates yells from below. Use your knees to hold the sail. You're not macking a quilt. Key has a point. You try again, biting your tongue, threading the thick twine through frayed holes, and sewing like your life depends on it. It kinda does. Wind tugs at you like a bratty toddler. You tighten your grip and keep stitching. 1, 2, tug. Not fun historical fact. On pirate ships, sailmakers were second only to the ship's carpenter in importance. A torn sail could strand a ship for days or kill the wind entirely during compiled a chase. Sail repair wasn't just busy work, it was survival. As you work, you notice something odd. Little symbols stitched into the fabric. A sun, a snake, a tooth. You ask the crew about them later. Okay, they shrugged. Every sail tells its story. Someone says, mysteriously, okay, then immediately falls asleep in their soup. You don't press. By midday, you're allowed back on deck with blistered palms and the proud exhaustion of someone who just survived high-altitude torture. You hope for a nap. What you get is galley duty. Remember that fish from last night? It's back, and this time, it's being boiled. You stir a pot of what might be stew, or might be paint. You're honestly not sure. Someone throws in a boot. By accident, it's fished out. Barely. You ask what's in it. The cook grins. Whatever didn't crawl away fast enough. It's not joking. The galley pirate slang for the ship's kitchen is a cramped, smoky dungeon. There's no ventilation. The fire's temperamental. The cook is missing 2 fingers and seems to treat food as more of a prank than a science. You peel weevils off hard-tack biscuits. You scrape mold from salt pork. You mash questionable beans. Then, you ladle the resulting slurry into wooden bowls and deliver it like some kind of sad soup Santa. Pirates accept it without thanks. One pours it into a boot and drinks it like tea. Another sniffs it, shrugs, and pours rum on top. Improves everything, he says. You sit to eat your own portion and try not to think about the texture. Quirky tidbit. Fact. Pirates were surprisingly obsessive about food storage. Barrels were rotated constantly. Salt levels were tested with taste. Sticks and spoiled rations could spark mutinies faster than unpaid shares. One ship reportedly rioted over wormy cheese. You finish your meal with half a biscuit and a full-bodied shudder. Later, you're sent to help inventory the booty from yesterday's raid. It's Underwhelming. A few silver coins, some dry ink, 2 bird cages, no birds, and an old violin. You suggest selling it. A pirate gasps. That's the music box. It's not, but he plays it anyway. Badly. Still, the crew claps as evening falls. There's no raid, no storm, no enemy sail. Just the golden calm of the sea, at peace. You sit on the deck's edge, staring into a sunset so vibrant it almost apologizes for everything you've endured. Almost. Then the mosquitoes arrive, tiny, vengeful, and in love with your ankles. You slap wildly, useless. One pirate hands you a paste made of vinegar, garlic, and something definitely illegal. Keeps the bugs off, he says. It also keeps humans off. The stench is unholy. Still, it works. You end the night lying on deck, stars stretching above like spilled sugar. Someone starts singing an old sea shanty. Others join in. The melody is crooked, but oddly beautiful. It's a lullaby for the broken and bruised. You hum along, quietly. You're still sore. You're still tired. Still miss the idea of pillows. But somewhere, in a strange warmth of camaraderie and chaos, a flicker of belonging sparks. Faint, foolish, real, until someone throws a rat at you. And that's pirate life. Really? You'd think, after everything, the cannon fire, the climb up the mast, the soup incident, that your pirate endurance bar would be full. But no, you are about to learn the hardest truth of all. There is no such thing as off-duty on a pirate ship, because just before dawn, when your body is finally learning how to sleep in a gently swinging canvas pouch, you're shaken awake by a boot to the ribs. Watch, shift. You blink, but it's still dark. Exactly. The pirate grins. You'll see more stars before the sun comes up. Get moving. You're pulled from your hammock, handed a lantern with barely a glow, and escorted up to the deck, where the wind feels like it's sharpening its claws, just for you. Welcome to Night Watch. You stand at the bow, human scarecrow in the dark, staring at a horizon that doesn't exist. Your job? Spot threats. Other ships, rocks, sea monsters, apparently. And if you see anything at all, you're to shout down to the quarterdeck. But here's the thing. You can't see squat. The moon is barely a sliver. Clouds smother the stars. The sea is ink. You squint so hard, your eyebrows cramp. The ship creaks and groans around you like it's telling secrets you're not allowed to know. And suddenly, everything feels terrifying, because at night, your imagination stops being cute. Every ripple becomes a sea serpent. Every shadow, ghost ship. Every creak, a pirate coming to slit your throat for half a biscuit. You try humming. That lasts 30 seconds before you're hushed by the helmsman. Too loud, you'll wake the ship. You didn't know ships slept. Eventually, your eyes adjust. You start to see outlines. The shivering sail above you, the curved railing of the bow, the occasional dart of a flying fish, illuminated by phosphorescent plankton. There's something magical about it. And just as you're starting to relax, it happens. A fog rolls in, not gentle, not poetic. A full, suffocating wall of white that swallows everything in seconds. You can't see your hands. You can't see the deck. You can't see anything. You freeze. Panic tickles the edge of your brain. Someone whispers behind you. This is how the Marybone disappeared. You spin. There's no one there. Awesome. Historical debate time. Historians still argue whether pirates spread ghost stories to scare each other or to keep their crew loyal. Either way, tales of ships vanishing into fog only to return decades later were common enough to make even the boldest buccaneers hesitate. You tighten your grip on the rail. The fog lingers for hours. Voices become muffled. Shadows loom large and wrong. You swear you see a figure walking across the water, but when you blink, gone. Eventually, the sun rises like it's apologizing for being late. The fog begins to melt. The sea sparkles again, and the world slowly turns back into something that makes sense. Barely, you're relieved of duty. Barely able to stand, you stagger below deck, convinced you'll finally get to sleep. But no, because today, it's laundry day. You laugh. It's out loud. Surely, that's a joke. It's not. On pirate ships, laundry was done by dumping clothes into a barrel filled with sand, seawater, and soap, if soap was available. You stomped the clothes like grapes until they were clean. Then you strung them from the rigging like bizarre nautical bunting. You're handed a barrel and a pair of very questionable underpants. You don't ask whose they are. You don't want to know. You stomp. You stomp with the fury of someone who hasn't had REM sleep in 3 days. Sand gets between your toes. Water splashes your knees. Smell is somewhere between damp regret and fermented sock. Pirates walk by and cheer ironically. One yells, "Don't stomp out all the flavor." You smile weakly, sighed. You die a little. You hang the clothes high on the rigging, clipped with wooden pegs that look like they were carved by a drunk raccoon. The wind immediately tries to steal a pair of trousers. You lunge. You catch them. You earn a slow clap from someone who may or may not be missing an eye. Small victories. Around midday, the call comes. Ship off the starboard bow. Instant alert. The deck becomes chaos. Pirates scramble. Ropes fly. Orders are barked. You rush up to see, heart pounding, only to spot a ship on the horizon with white sails. A merchant. Your stomach flips. You expect the order to pursue. Instead, the captain squints through his spyglass and mutters, "Too far, too fast, not worth the powder." The crew groans. You, quietly, exhale in relief. Still, the captain wants to make a point. "Let's test readiness," he says. "Battle drill, no excuses." Suddenly, everyone is in position. Cannons loaded with blanks, weapons checked, boarding ropes coiled. You're handed a musket and pointed to the rail. "No powder," someone warns. You'd shoot your own foot. Noted. The drill is fast, loud, and surprisingly precise. Pirates swing from ropes like acrobats. Commands are shouted and echoed. Cannonballs thump. Smoke clouds the deck. You duck instinctively. It's terrifying, even when it's fake. You start to understand, really understand, that these pirates aren't just drunk guys with knives. They're trained, organized, and completely desensitized to danger. You flinch when someone opens a bottle to fast mainstream fact. Contrary to Hollywood, pirates weren't all chaos and rum. Ships ran on strict routines, so captains demanded drills weekly. In fact, pirate crews were often better trained than the official navies chasing them. The drill ends. Collapse to the deck, muscles shaking, ears ringing. Someone hands you a lemon for the scurvy. You look at it like it's a joke. It's not. It's dead serious. Turns out, pirates were obsessed with citrus, especially lemons and limes, after realizing that they prevented teeth from falling out, which, is a solid incentive. Weird tidbit. Some captains actually paid more for citrus fruit than for gunpowder. There are stories of entire raids launched just to steal barrels of oranges. Vitamin C, the most underrated pirate treasure. You suck on the lemon. It's sour enough to reboot your brain. Evening creeps in. You're finally allowed to rest. You slump into your hammock, body buzzing from exhaustion, lemon juice still clinging to your lips. Your eyes close, and, just before you fall asleep, you hear someone whisper from the shadows, "Wait till you get to rat duty." No. Sleep. At last, you curl into your hammock, like it's a 5-star hotel bed. The gentle sway of the ship rocks you just enough to trick your brain into letting go. Your muscles sigh. Your brain begins to drift. And then, SKITTER. At first, it's faint. A soft scratching in the beams above. SKITTR. Skitter. Scritch. Your eyes snap open. Did something just nibble? You don't want to believe it. You stay still. Maybe it's the wood. Maybe it's your imagination. Then something lands on your chest. You sit up so fast your hammock flips, dumping you onto the wooden floor with a thud and a proud creak of ropes. A shadow scurries across the planks. Its beady eyes glint in the dark. You hear laughter. It's not in your head. It's from the next hammock over. Meet the night crew. It's one whispers, "Congratulations. It's time for rat duty." Because, yes, pirate ships were flooding buffets for rodents. It's the minute you stocked barrels of flour, salted meat, hardtack, dried beans, or anything vaguely chewable, rats declared it an all-you-can-eat cruise. They multiplied faster than your regrets. And guess whose job it is to chase them down tonight? Yours? You're handed a club, not a fancy one, just a stick with a knot at the end. No poison, the quartermaster explains. Still die in the food stores. Then everything smells like betrayal. So you go hunting, in the dark, in the lowest, most airless corner of the ship, where the ceiling is too low to stand and the floor is slick with sea sweat. Historical fact. Rats were one of the biggest threats to food security on ships. A single breeding pair could produce hundreds of descendants within months. Many navies even employed ship cats, unofficial crew members who earn their keep in mice. You see no cat? You do. Spot a rat the size of a small boot. You lunge. It laughs. You swear it laughs. Then it vanishes behind a barrel. This goes on for hours. You trap one, miss two, step on something you hope was a mushroom and not rat droppings. Someone offers you a glass of grog as a reward. You decline. You're not in a celebratory mood. But eventually, dawn cracks open the sky. You crawl back to your hammock. Now too afraid to close your eyes. Sleep score. Negative emotional growth. Mid-morning brings a new ordeal. Discipline. You hear shouting above deck. Not angry shouting, formal shouting. It's a kind of shout where everyone stands in a circle and something official happens. You climb up, bleary-eyed, and find the crew assembled like it's pirate school assembly. At the center, a crewman tied to the mast, shirt off, pack exposed. The captain reads from a tattered book. Pirate law. Turns out, this poor soul stole more than his rum ration. He also insulted the cook's parrot, which is apparently a crime. You wait for the punishment, and then it arrives, keel hauling you. Expect it to be a metaphor. It's not. Mainstream fact. Keel hauling was a real and horrifying punishment. The accused would be tied to a rope and dragged under the ship from one side to the other. Barnacles on the hull could slice open skin like knives. If you survived, congrats. If you didn't, well, lesson learned. Fortunately, this is the lighter version. More of a dunking. Still terrifying. The crew watches in eerie silence as the man is lowered into the ocean, then pulled across. When he emerges, sputtering and bruised, there's a ripple of cheers. Then, back to work. No HR department here. Quirky tidbit. Some pirate ships had democratic justice systems. Sort of. Crews voted on punishments. Captains could be overruled. Pirate codes varied by ship and captain. And were often scrawled out before a voyage like a weird office charter. After the punishment, the mood lightens again. Someone breaks out a fiddle. Others dance. You watch in disbelief. How can people go from public near drowning to a jig in under 5 minutes? Pirates, apparently. Then comes the TATTOOIST. On many ships. Tattoos weren't just fashion, they were superstition. Sailors inked symbols of protection, luck, or past battles. Anchors, swallows, skulls, mermaids. Everyone gets marked. You're told it's how you prove you belong. You hesitate. You're not ready for needles on a rocking boat. Doesn't matter. You're sat down on a barrel. The tattooist, a heavily inked man named Two-Fingered John, leans in with a crooked grin. His tools, blackened needle, and a jar of what might be squid ink. What'll it be? He asks. A kraken. A shark. Your ex's name spelled wrong. You mumble. Maybe. An anchor. He nods. Classic. The needle stings. Duh. Ship tilts. You bite your tongue. It takes 15 minutes. He slaps a rag over it and says, "Don't scratch it." Or do. I'm not your dad. Historians still argue whether pirates pioneered tattooing as a group identity, or just copied indigenous markings they saw in port cities and wanted to look cool. Either way, by the early 1700s, tattoos were so common among seafarers that they were used to identify drowned sailors who washed ashore. You have one now? It itches. Already. Afternoon means back to chores. This time, barnacle scraping, because when you live at sea, even the boat gets itchy. You're lowered in a rope sling over the side, given a flat iron scraper, and told to get those crusty hitchhikers off the hull. It's slow, wet, and smells like decayed shrimp in a swamp. Also, sharks. You're reassured badly that the crew hasn't seen one in days. Fun fringe fact. Some pirates believed barnacles were bad luck, literal sea leeches. Others saw them as camouflage from enemy ships. Some just ignored them entirely until the ship got slow enough to be embarrassing. You scrape and scrape. One barnacle pops off and nearly takes your thumbnail with it. The sun beats down. Salt dries on your lips. Your arms throb. And then, for the first time since boarding, you realize something strange. You're doing it. You're actually part of the ship. Horribly, miserably, uncomfortably. Surviving. You're exhausted, tattooed, rat-bitten, sunburnt. You may be hallucinating from dehydration, but you haven't quit yet. Evening falls. The sky goes red like a warning. As one mutters, "Red sky at night, sailor's delight." Someone else replies, "Unless it's blood." Okay, you don't. Back in your hammock, you curl up again. One more day done. The sea creaks. The wind moans. The rats, for once, stay away. And just before sleep, finally comes. The ship tilts gently to starboard. A whisper from above. Storms, cumin. Oh, great. The captain doesn't speak for a long time. He just stares. You are warned not to look him directly in the eye, but curiosity gets the better of you. And now, there you are standing on deck, water still dripping from your sleeves, as the man supposedly steering this whole floating asylum peers at you like he's deciding whether you're a crewmate or kindling dot. No one says a word. A seagull cries somewhere overhead. It's the only sound, apart from the occasional creak of the rigging and the soft whisper of the wind dying down. Then, finally, he speaks. You ever hear a star speak? You blink? Surely he meant saw or heard a storm, or maybe he's quoting poetry. But no, he continues, as if your stunned silence was actually an enthusiastic yes. They don't talk to most men, but I've got salt in my ears and iron in my blood. The stars whisper when I'm alone. When the rest of you sleep like the dead, I'm up there listening. He gestures upward to the sky. Daylight still filters through the clouds, but he's looking beyond that, into something you can't see. Maybe something that isn't even there. You nod slowly, because what else can you do? One of the older sailors leans in and murmurs, "Just agree. It's harmless," until he isn't. You're quickly learning the captain's reputation isn't just superstition, mainstream historical fact. Some real-life pirate captains were indeed respected seafarers with naval backgrounds and legitimate command experience. Others were self-proclaimed lords of the sea, often erratic, charismatic, or outright deranged, somehow still able to hold command through a mix of fear, ritual, and raw force of will. The captain turns suddenly, shouting something unintelligible toward the helm. The helmsman jumps and begins spinning the wheel. Though the sea is calm and the ship is already on course, you realize the crew doesn't follow orders because they make sense. They follow them because not following them leads to the whip, or worse. And speaking of whips, you flinch as a crack slices through the air behind you. Not on you yet, but close enough that your skin sings. The bosun walks by, silent as death, coiling the leather in his hands. No explanation, just a reminder. The captain hums to himself now, a melody with no rhythm. He walks to the edge of the deck, barefoot, arms spread wide. "Poseidon, old friend," he calls into the ocean, "bring us teeth or treasure." You begin to suspect he has no real interest in gold, or even survival. The strangest part, the men seem to love him for it. Not openly, of course, but in the whispered way men admire something terrible from a distance. They believe he's touched, yes, but also chosen. When the weather turns and the compasses spin, they say it's the captain's madness that gets them through. He's part oracle, part storm himself. You overhear to sailors betting on when his next vision will strike. One swears the last time it happened, he drew a map in his own blood that led to a Spanish galleon just floating, full of silver, no crew aboard. Another laughs and says he once found the captain sleeping upside down in the rigging, clutching a dead bird and whispering in Latin. Historians still argue whether such stories were exaggeration, metaphor, or genuine accounts. Some suggest pirate captains cultivated these personas on purpose to seem invincible or divinely guided. Others believe these were simply the natural results of sunstroke, syphilis, and prolonged isolation. You decide to stay far away from the captain's quarters. But of course, fate has other plans. That night, you're ordered to deliver a message. Not a scroll, not a sealed letter, a literal message, spoken word for word, to the captain himself. You knock on the cabin door, heart pounding. No answer. You knock again. Then, the door creaks open on its own. Inside, the air is thick with pipe smoke and something you can't place like cinnamon mixed with rust. The walls are covered in maps. Some are real, others wildly inaccurate. Islands shaped like skulls, dragons curled along coastlines. One appears to show the moon as a landmass. The captain sits at a desk, surrounded by books, all open, all in different languages. He looks up, his eyes wide, not angry, not even surprised, just elsewhere. You brought the message, he says. Before you speak a word, you freeze. He gestures to a candle. Blow it out. You do. Darkness. Then, the sound of him scribbling. Sit, he says. You hesitate. Sit. You lower yourself into a chair that creaks under your weight. The captain is writing with a quill, fast and furious. You try not to look, but the words are upside down and written in some kind of code. Call, or gibberish, or both. Tell to see this, he says suddenly, staring straight into you. We'll trade bones for gold. She listens. You nod. You're dismissed. As you step out, the door closes behind you, not with a slam, but with a whisper. That night, you don't sleep well. The wind moans through the sails, and the ship creaks like it's remembering things it shouldn't. You dream of ink-stained maps and whispering stars. Quirky tidbit. Some pirates believed their captains had magical powers, like the ability to summon wind, control sea creatures, or even predict the future. Certain ships were said to carry storm bottles blessed by the captain's spit, which would break when danger was near. By morning, the crew is quieter, not out of fear, but reverence. The captain walks the deck, barefoot again. Murmurs follow him like shadows. He hasn't bathed in days, but no one mocks him. They call it seaskin, a gift from the deep. You stay busy. Keep your head down, because if you ask questions, if you challenge his authority, you don't just get punished, you disappear. The crew's version of a courtroom is just a barrel, some dice, and a rope. You wake up to shouting. It's not the usual kind of storm panic, the angry commands, the sarcastic laughter. This is different, sharper, focused. Something's wrong. Men gather on the main deck, forming a crude circle. You see elbows jutting out, fists clenched, heads shaking. One man stands in the center shirtless, soaked in sweat, lip bleeding. He's yelling back, but no one's listening. You join the outer ring, keeping your distance. This ain't right, he roars. You all know it. I didn't touch that barrel. No one answers. Instead, someone kicks a small wooden box toward the middle. The accused stares down at it. You realize it's a rum crate, or, more specifically, the missing one. Mainstream historical fact. On pirate ships, order was rarely enforced through traditional naval hierarchy. Instead, pirates operated under their own rules, followed brutal but oddly democratic. They had ship's articles, voted on by the crew, and captains could be overruled if enough men demanded it. But when those rules were broken, the consequences were fast, final, and rarely fair. The accused pleads. He swears on his mother's grave. He offers to take double rations of bilge duty. The crew murmurs, unimpressed. A voice cuts through the noise. Barrel, dice, or rope. That's all he gets. He glances around, eyes wide. He's trembling now. You lean toward a sailor beside you and whisper, "What does that mean?" The sailor chuckles darkly. Means he gets to pick. Tied in and rolled back and forth across the deck till his bones feel like soup. Dice he rolls for his punishment. Could be lashes, could be a nail through the ear. Rope. You don't need the rest, explained. The man chooses dice. A hush falls. Someone hands him a carved bone die big, yellowed, clearly old. Heroes. It across a flat plank laid on the deck. It lands on 6. The crowd groans. A few whistle low. The sailor beside you nods. Bad roll. That's the cat. You find out the cat refers to the cato, 9 tails a whip, designed not to punish, but to destroy. It's 9 knotted lashes, often with bits of metal or bone woven in. You'll see the scars on pirates' backs long before you ever hear the stories. They tie him to the mast, shirtless, arms stretched. You don't look away. You should, but you don't. The first lash lands. He screams. By the third, he's biting a rag to keep from crying out. By the seventh, he's unconscious. They stop at 8, tactfully merciful. Someone pours seawater over the wounds. He wakes up, screaming again. Pirate justice. Someone mutters behind you. Brutal, but consistent. Historians still argue whether this kind of system was better or worse than naval courts. On one hand, it was fast and no delays. No officers sipping tea while a man rotted in chains. On the other, it was pure mob rule. One bad mood, one false accusation, and your fate might be sealed by the roll of a dice or the whim of a drunk quartermaster. Later that day, another crewman gets caught cheating at cards. He doesn't get a trial. They toss him overboard. No fanfare, no speech, just hands grabbing him, legs flailing, a splash, gone. One man even laughs. The sharks need sport too. You're starting to realize something dangerous. This isn't a ship, it's an ecosystem, a closed world, floating between two infinity sky and sea where power flows through fear. And justice is whatever the loudest voice agrees it is that day. Quirky tidbit. Some pirate ships reportedly had unique punishments, like keel hauling, where a man was tied to a rope and dragged under the ship's hull, often shredding him against barnacles. Others invented bizarre rituals, like trial by rat, where the accused had to let a rat crawl across his chest in a cage while the crew watched to see if the gods sent a sign. No one trusts the captain to decide justice. That's not his role. It's the quartermaster who handles most of it. A barrel-chested man with sharp eyes and an even sharper knife. He holds the crew's respect, not through speeches, but because he remembers everything. Who stole what, who owes rum, who backed down in the last brawl. His word weighs more than the captain's when it comes to discipline. You hope he never learned your name, but luck doesn't last long at sea. That night, she helped mop the lower deck. Someone's purse goes missing. The crew shouts. The quartermaster storms in. You're standing closest. Eyes turn to you. No trial, someone says. Fresh meat always hides it. You stammer, you beg, you swear on everything. Then the quartermaster holds up the purse from under someone else's hammock. He stares at you for a long time, long enough to make you sweat. Then he walks away. Later, someone pats your shoulder. You got lucky, they say. Next time, maybe not. And when you lie in your bunk that night, staring up at the black beams above you, don't feel safe. You just feel next. You're getting used to this now, sort of. At dawn, the sky is a hazy lavender, and the air smells like rope, salt, and sweat. You squint across the deck and feel, dare you say it, competent, like you might actually make it another day. And then they hand you a bucket. Time to swab, says a grinning sailor, missing 3 teeth. Unless you'd rather clean the bilge, you take the bucket. You always take the bucket. The swabbing part isn't even the worst of it. The water they give you is recycled rainwater mixed with a little vinegar and, you suspect, some mysterious pirate potion that smells vaguely like old cabbage. It sloshes onto your feet with every step. The mop head is basically a wet rag on a stick, and it's been through more trauma than you have. Still, you get to work, back and forth, back and forth. The rhythm is almost meditative if you ignore the way your knees ache and your back screams. And of course, the occasional rat sprinting across your path just to keep you alert. But there's something comforting in the routine. Cue mop, where they tell you, rinse, when they yell, avoid the angry rooster that someone insists is the ship's spirit guardian. You name him Captain Pexlot and give him a wide berth. Halfway through the morning, there's a commotion at the bow. You drop your mop and wander over, slipping once on your freshly scrubbed floor. No one notices. You're grateful. It's the lookout. He's pointing to something in the water. You squint. At first, it looks like driftwood. But as you get closer, you realize it's a body, face down, bobbing in the waves, maybe 50 feet out. No one says a word. A grappling hook is thrown. Ropes tighten. The body is dragged in like a wayward fish, bloated, sunburned, and eerily peaceful. No one recognizes him, not one of yours. Maybe a castaway, maybe from a shipwreck, Maybe another pirate, unlucky enough to fall overboard and not be missed. They strip the body, check for valuables, find a ring, a rusty knife, and a single boot. Then, plop, right back overboard. You stare. Aren't we going to bury him? Someone shrugs. He's already buried. Sweat is all. Mainstream historical fact. It was common practice aboard pirate ships to perform only minimal rites for the dead, if any. A burial at sea often meant a weighted drop into the ocean, especially for unknowns. Time and superstition rarely allowed for long goodbyes. You get back to mopping, but you do it with a bit more awareness. Every inch of that deck is a reminder that you could be floating face down tomorrow. Your last possessions are praised like items at a flea market. By midday, the wind picks up. Not dangerously, just enough to ripple the patched sails and pull the ship forward with purpose. The crew comes alive with it. Shouting, laughter, even a brief dance break where someone tries to juggle lemons and fails spectacularly. Lunch is fish stew. Again, you don't ask what kind of fish or whether it's actually fish. You just chew and hope the bones don't poke back as you eat. An older sailor leans in and whispers, "You ever hear the one about the ghost ship that sails with no crew? Just a lantern swinging on the mast?" You pause, mid-chew. He nods. "Swear on me, Hook," they say. It follows you. If you make too many jokes about Neptune's beard, you mentally review your joke count and vow to apologize to Neptune next chance you get. Quirky tidbit. Sailors were wildly superstitious. Whistling on deck was considered bad luck. Bringing bananas aboard, forbidden, blamed for everything from spoiled voyages to sudden death. Hey, and if you spotted a shark swimming alongside the ship, some believed it meant someone aboard would die soon. You now spend a lot of time not looking over the railing. The afternoon brings a surprise. Combat drills. Someone shoves a rusted cutlass into your hand. "Pretend I'm the Navy," they say. You blink. "Should I?" Tack. Too late. They lunge. You flail. It's not elegant. Your sword clangs off. There's like two frying pans having an argument. You duck, twist, and somehow avoid losing a finger. Then your opponent grins and smacks the blade from your hand. It clatters to the deck. Not bad, they say, for someone who swings like a wet sock. Historians still argue whether pirate combat training was standardized. Some scholars suggest pirates held formal drills, especially those with naval backgrounds. Others argue most fighting skills were picked up on the fly, in taverns, in duels, in desperate scrapes against bounty hunters. Judging by your performance, it's definitely the desperate scrapes school of thought. You retrieve your sword and keep going. By the end of the hour, your arms feel like soggy noodles, but you don't drop the blade again. Small victories. Dinner is hardtack and dried peas. You bite down and chip something. You hope it's the hardtack. That night, during the twilight, you spot something shimmering on the horizon. At first, you think it's lightning, okay? Then you realize it's bioluminescent plankton. The ship's wake glows softly in the dark, like stardust on water. You lean on the railing, mesmerized. The sea, for all its cruelty, has moments of grace, and in that moment, you feel something strange. Peace. Captain Pexelot perches beside you and lets out a tiny squawk, as if in approval. You pat him gently and whisper, "Don't curse me, bird." Then, you head below deck. Your hammock creaks, your bruises throb, but you fall asleep faster than ever. Tomorrow will be hard again, but tonight is almost beautiful. You wake to shouting, not the usual morning cursing, but sharp, fast voices, low and tense, like gunpowder about to light. You blink salt from your eyes and stumble to your feet, just in time to see two pirates locked in a grappling match near the rum barrel. One's bleeding from the cheek, the other's holding a broken bottle, like a dagger. No one's breaking it up, not yet. You edge closer, pretending to be useful, maybe coiling a rope, maybe not. The argument, as best you can gather, started over who watered down the rum, which is laughable because everyone waters down the rum. It's more tradition than deception at this point. But something about the way the bigger pirate keeps snarling the word thief suggests this goes deeper. Maybe old bad blood, maybe bruised pride, maybe They just missed the taste of authority. Suddenly, dash crack, a punch lands, sharp and wet. One man goes down, and the other lunges in for more. This time, the crowd moves, but not to stop it, to watch, because, on a pirate ship, this is the entertainment. Only when the loser's face starts to go an alarming shade of purple does the captain intervene. Not with words, with his pistol. He fires one shot in the air. Everyone freezes. You want to bleed? Fine, but not on my deck. The winner grins, breathless and wild. The loser wheezes on the planks. The captain looks at you. Clean that, you get a mop and a bucket. And, in time, very intimate understanding of pirate blood types. Mainstream historical fact. Pirate ships were famously democratic. In some ways, crews voted on leadership, divvied up treasure, and even had codes of conduct. But when tempers flared, it was fists first. Questions, maybe later. Formal justice was rare. Violence was often the first and last word. Later that day, you helped patch up the loser. His name's Ren, short for something longer. He doesn't remember. He's got a broken tooth and a good mood. Somehow, could have been worse, he says, spitting pink into a bowl. Once saw a man get stabbed over a chess game. Neither of them knew how to play. You laugh, mostly because you're still alive. That feels like enough today. But the mood shifts again that evening. You're swabbing the deck again when you overhear whispers near the stern. Furtive voices. Names are mentioned. Plans you don't catch at all. But the word mutiny floats through the air like smoke. Your blood runs cold. You weren't even on board a week ago. You barely know who's who, let alone who's trustworthy. And now you're in the middle of something big, something dangerous. You retreat, pretending you heard nothing. But now your ears are tuned. The next day, you notice more. The quartermaster speaks sharply to the captain, too sharply. Trio of sailors suddenly get assigned to inventory gunpowder loan below deck, where no one else goes. You spot a man quietly sharpening a blade. It's not meant for fish. It might be nothing, or it might be everything. Quirky tidbit. Some pirate crews practiced articles of agreement, kind of pirate constitution. But when someone violated the code, or if the captain was seen as weak, crews could stage a mutiny and vote in a new leader. That meant even high-ranking officers lived in a state of paranoid autocracy. You try to stay out of it, but the paranoia is contagious. You sleep with one eye open now. You'll keep a spoon under your blanket because it's the closest thing to a weapon you're allowed. You start measuring people's smiles. Are they friendly or hiding something behind their teeth? One morning, you find the captain sitting alone. No hat, no boots, just staring at the horizon like it owes him money. He speaks without looking at you. Know what happens if they try it? You blink. He glances over. They better win. He stands, stretches, and walks away. No orders, no threats, just that. You never forget it. Historians still argue whether mutinies on pirate ships were more common than in other navies. Some say pirate life encouraged rebellion because authority was earned, not imposed. Others argue the opposite, that pirate crews, having chosen their leaders, felt bound to obey unless survival demanded otherwise. The tension breaks one night with a surprise, not a mutiny, a storm. It hits fast and violent, with the kind of wind that makes sails scream. You're on deck when it starts, and you stay there, pulled into the frenzy of sailors hauling ropes, battening hatches, shouting orders to gods no one believes in. Rain comes sideways. Lightning turns faces into skulls. Someone's washed overboard, maybe two, and in the chaos, no one remembers who was planning to betray whom. Only survival matters now. By dawn, the storm is gone. The sea calms. The captain walks the deck barefoot, inspecting damage. He looks older, quieter. You find the three whisperers later. One is missing. One is limping. The third has shaved his beard for no clear reason and doesn't speak anymore. You don't ask questions. You just keep swapping. By morning, the rhythm of pirate life resumes, but with a twist. You're roused from your hammock by a new sound. Metal on wood. Not the usual hammering or repairs. This is sharper, deliberate, rhythmic. You stumble onto the deck, still half dreaming of floating barrels and rum thieves and find the crew assembled in a loose ring. At the center, two pirates, stripped to the waist, circling each other like alley cats. One has a cutlass, the other just a dagger and a wicked grin. You're about to ask what fresh madness this is when someone mutters, "It's dueling day." Wait, dueling? Like, for honor? No, says a wiry man, sharpening his hook against the mast. More like, for fun. Mainstream historical fact. Believe it or not, pirate crews had systems for resolving disputes, some even codified in written articles. If two crew members had a serious disagreement and no one wanted to back down, they could choose to duel. These weren't always to the death sometimes, just first blood. Okay. But the weapons varied wildly. Pistols, cutlasses, fists, or even broken bottles. It was brutal conflict, wrapped in a weird kind of order. This duel is short and nasty. The dagger wins, but only because he throws sand in the cutlass wielder's face, then knees him somewhere very unchivalrous. A quick slash across the arm draws enough blood to claim victory. No one cheers. They nod. Respect given. Dispute ended. But you can't shake the feeling that life here is a constant performance. Every gesture, part theater, part survival. The captain strolls out late, wearing what you now know to be his formal coat. Slightly fewer holes, marginally less rum stain. He surveys the blood on the deck and merely says, "Settle it." Aye, he nods, satisfied, and turns his eye on the horizon. We change course today. Everyone freezes. Change course? But why? Too many ships on the old lane, he says, as if that explains everything. And where it is, there's a Spanish galleon 2 days east, fat with silver and saints. Silver and saints. Sounds like a trap, but also you can feel the air shift. So the crew is hungry, not just for food, but for purpose, loot, glory, distraction. Historians still argue how much intelligence pirate captains really had access to. Some claim they had entire spy networks, bribing port officials or gathering rumors from taverns. Others argue it was mostly guesswork and gut instinct, but it's clear that the best pirates weren't just violent, they were tactical, opportunistic, and occasionally lucky. Course is set, sails trimmed, compass consulted. You're headed east into open water. The mood lifts for the first time in days. Someone breaks out a fiddle. The tune is fast, a reel that sparks laughter and stomping boots. You're handed a bucket and told to dance or drown. You don't know the steps, so you improvise. The crew roars with laughter, partly at you, partly with you. Doesn't matter which, you're in. That night, as stars bloom across the sky like spilled sugar, a few pirates gather near the bow to tell stories. Ghost ships. Islands that vanish at dawn. Sirens who sing you to sleep, then never wake you. You scoff until the old cook says, "One time, we found a ship adrift. No crew, no damage. Food still warm in the galley. Not a soul aboard." You wait for a punchline. There isn't one. You sleep uneasily. Quirky tidbit. Pirates were a superstitious bunch. Many believed in omens, sea monsters, and curses. Black cats whistling into the wind or sailing on a Friday were all considered bad luck. Some even tattooed protective symbols on their skin crosses, stars or mermaids to ward off misfortune. The next day, as the sun burns high and the water glitters like molten glass, a cry goes up. Wreckage. You rush to the edge. They're bobbing in the surf. A shattered mast, barrels, a shredded sail. No bodies, no survivors, just flotsam, drifting like bones. Captain says nothing, just orders the wreckage hauled aboard. Anything usable gets salvaged. The rest splinters, and ruined crates is tossed over again. One crate contains lemons, mostly spoiled, but a few good. You pocket one. Later, in a hushed corner of the ship, you ask an older sailor what they think happened to the crew. Could be anything, they say. Storm, mutiny, ghosts, ghosts. He grins. You'll see. You hope he's joking. That night, while on watch, you feel it. The stillness, not a calm sea, but a pause, like the ocean's holding its breath. Then a distant light, flickering, moving. You call it out. Nothing shows on the horizon. Then it vanishes. You're told to stop imagining things. But one sailor presses something into your hand. Small talisman, carved bone, looks like a squid or kraken. For luck, he says. Keep it close. You do, because whether it's real or not, you need something to believe in. The wind holds, just barely. It pushes the ship like a sigh, steady enough to move, but soft enough that every creak of wood and flap of sail becomes a kind of background lullaby. You're sent aloft this morning, climbing into the rigging with a brush and a rope, tasked with tar coating some rope lines that apparently look too blonde, because appearance, it seems, matters, even in piracy. The world looks different from up here. It's vast, empty. The ocean stretches in every direction, like a rippling blue canvas, with the clouds hovering low on the horizon like distant mountains. You almost feel free. Almost. Then your foot slips. Your stomach lurches. Can't your fingers clamp instinctively onto the nearest line? Your brush falls spiraling down to the deck, where it hits a sailor square in the head. He curses, loudly. You're not punished, but you are laughed at, mercilessly. A nickname is born on the spot. Dropstick. Could be worse. Another lad who once fell from the crow's nest without dying is called Thump. Pirates don't do HR. They do mockery, camaraderie, and the occasional black eye. By midday, someone spots something off the port side. Driftwood comes to cry. But as you draw near, it's clear this isn't just flotsam. It's a whole boat, or what's left of one. A long, narrow canoe, waterlogged and bobbing with grim slowness. Inside, bones. Not just any bones, human ones. Stripped, clean, arranged oddly, like someone tried to build a skeleton back together, but lost the manual halfway through. Mainstream historical fact. Pirates often encountered ghost ships, derelicts, and wreckage floating across the ocean. Cod. The sea was full of abandoned vessels, either due to storms, mutiny, or disease. Some were looted, some were repurposed, and some were left alone. The captain frowns. No touching that, he says. Bad water. No one argues. As the ship veers away, you hear one sailor mutter about sea curses and drowned spirits. Another spits over the side and makes a strange hand sign over his heart. You wonder what kind of death leaves a skeleton so clean. That night, you overhear two pirates whispering. They speak of an island not far from here that shouldn't exist. A place marked on no maps, surrounded by reefs that change positions like living things. Ships that go in don't come back, or if they do, their compasses spin and their clocks forget the time. Historians still argue whether pirate maps actually included phantom islands, places invented or exaggerated by sailors. Some believe these tales were early versions of psychological coping mechanisms for the sheer terror of being lost at sea. Others suggest they were real places, misremembered or misplaced by crude cartography. The morning brings fog, thick, clinging fog, like wet wool. You can't see 10 feet past the bow, okay? Every sound is amplified: your footsteps, the drip of water, the groan of the ship's joints. Even the rooster has stopped crowing. The captain orders dead slow. You're posted at the bow with a lantern. Your job to call out if anything appears. You feel important till the fog eats your voice. For hours, the ship moves through the gray, like a ghost of itself. You begin to lose your sense of time. The world shrinks to a tiny pool of light around your feet. Then, a bell. Not your ship's bell. Another. Far off, distant, but getting closer. No one moves. Everyone hears it. The captain orders silence. All lanterns doused, and in that damp, floating darkness, you hear oars, soft, deliberate. Then, nothing. You strain your eyes, stretching the mist. Nothing. Just the wet breath of the ocean. Eventually, the bell is gone. Quirky tidbit. Some pirates swore they encountered phantom ships in the fog vessels that appeared out of nowhere, silent and crewless, only to vanish before contact. These tales became part of nautical folklore, sometimes even blamed for actual disappearances. When the sun burns through the fog, there's no sign of another ship, no wake, no sound, just you and a ship full of people pretending nothing happened. Later, that day, your chore is to clean the galley. The cook, a former monk turned outlaw, says little. He hands you a knife and points at some suspiciously moving barrels. Inside, eels. They slither like oily ropes, snapping at your fingers. You learn quickly why the cook wears gloves. Supper that night is something called sea hash. You don't ask questions, but by bedtime, the fog has lifted. The stars return, glittering and cold. You fall asleep clutching the Kraken talisman from earlier and dream of bells. But the dream is strange. The deck beneath you is soft like skin. The sails above you breathe. The stars blink like watching eyes. You're not sure whether you're floating or being carried. You wake to the rooster crowing again. A good sign, maybe, except ... The fog is back, and this time, it smells different. Sour, like something old and wet and wrong. A second ship is spotted, dead ahead, barely a silhouette. It moves like it's being towed by invisible ropes. No flags, no voices, just that awful bell ringing in the stillness. The captain veers sharply, changing course. No orders to investigate. No signal sent. The crew says nothing. This time, no one jokes. That night, just before bed, someone carves a symbol into the mast. It's not one you recognize. It's a jagged circle with 3 vertical slashes inside. You ask what it means. The carpenter looks up and says, "It means we pass into a place that doesn't forgive mistakes." Then he goes back to sanding. You wake before dawn to the kind of quiet that isn't really quiet at all. It's heavy. Watching the air clings to your skin like cold breath. The ship seems to be holding itself very still, as if trying not to make a sound. No wind, no creak of wood, not even the lazy slap of waves against the hull. Just stillness. The sun rises, but it feels like it forgets to bring warmth with it. Everything glows gray. One of the older pirates mutters that the sea's gone sullen. You're not sure what that means, but judging by the fact he won't meet your eyes afterward, you don't ask. Your first task of the day, swabbing. Again, the deck is always sticky, always covered in the invisible grime of salt and sweat. You wonder how there's still salt left in the sea, with how much of it ends up coating your boots. Midway through the chore, the calm breaks. A shout, sharp, panicked, cuts across the ship. Sails, too stern, cute, squinting into the haze. And there it is, a black speck on the horizon, growing fast, too fast. Within minutes, the ship has turned into a wasp nest of movement. Pirates scurry to load cannons, tie down anything loose, and hoist extra sail. You're shoved toward the powder monkey's kids, younger than you, already stained with soot and sweat, who are tasked with fetching gunpowder from the magazine below. Guess what your new job is? Kept. Mainstream historical fact. In real naval engagements, young boys known as powder monkeys would carry black powder charges from the ship's hold to the cannons during battle. These roles were incredibly dangerous, as any spark or stray shot could cause a catastrophic explosion. Many were orphans or press-ganged children. You're handed a small leather pouch of powder, told to run fast. The space below deck is a maze of shadows and swinging hammocks. You duck low, skidding across splintered wood, heart thundering in your chest like one of the guns you're feeding. Back above, the other ship has drawn closer. It's not flying any flag. It's not a good sign. You ask if it's the Navy. Nope, comes the reply. Worse, a rival pirate crew. That's the thing. Apparently, yes. And not just any crew, it's the kind that doesn't take prisoners, or so the whisper goes. You glance over again, and your stomach drops. Their sails are blood. Red dot. Who picks blood red sails unless they're trying to make a statement? Your captain doesn't hesitate. He bellows orders, and suddenly the ship swerves hard to port, aiming to catch a crosswind that might give you a chance to escape. Cannons thunder. The deck shudders. Smoke pours into the sky like black ribbons. You don't stay to watch, but you're too busy hauling more powder, dodging feet and falling rigging, ears ringing from every blast. You nearly died 3 times in the next 20 minutes. Once from a slipping powder keg, once from a falling pulley block that misses you by a handspan, and once when a cannon misfires and belches a tongue of flame that singes your eyebrows clean off, gives your face character. One pirate snorts. You don't laugh. The battle is chaos. Shouts, smoke, screams, The enemy ship draws closer, and for a terrifying moment, it seems like they might try to board. Hooks fly, grapples clang against your rails, but your captain has a surprise. He'd rigged extra charges in the forward guns. They fire in unison, blinding, deafening, and tear a hole in the enemy's bow. Splinters and men scatter into the sea. Their ship veers off course, smoke pouring from its wounds. Your crew howls with glee. You think someone starts singing. It's not over, but the worst seems past. You sit down against a barrel, lungs aching, hands shaking, ears buzzing, and that's when you notice your foot's bleeding. A nail must out, torn through your boot. You didn't feel it until now. The ship limps away from the fight. Victory, but barely down below. The injured are tended to, bandaged, or buried. The cook offers you a dram of something that tastes like fire and fish guts. You drink it anyway. It helps. You ask someone later how often that happens. More than you'd like, they say. Less than you'd fear, whatever that means. Quirky tidbit. Some pirate crews used psychological warfare in battle, blaring horns, wearing masks or dyed clothes, even hanging skeletons from the masts to terrify opponents before a shot was ever fired. Blood-colored sails were not just dramatic, they were a statement of intent. Night falls. The crew is quieter than usual. Some pray, others sharpen blades. You, surprisingly, are given a reward for your efforts. A piece of citrus fruit, an orange. You haven't tasted sweetness in weeks. It's heaven. Historians still argue whether citrus was a regular part of pirate diets or a rare treat reserved for moments like this. Some claim scurvy was rampant and only poorly understood, while others point to evidence that seasoned captains stocked lemons or limes whenever they could, there for health or morale. You save a wedge of your orange for later, wrap it in cloth, hide it in your hammock like treasure, and as you lie back, rocking with the ship, you think about the red-sailed ship, about how close death came, and how, somehow, you're still here. The sun is low, casting long, sleepy shadows across the deck. The salty air tastes like promises you're not quite ready to believe. You're tasked with an evening watch, which means staring at an endless horizon, hoping to catch something, anything that might signal trouble or treasure. Either way, you're stuck with the job because someone has to do it, okay? And the captain's tone made it clear it wouldn't be you. Your eyes scanned the waves, slow and steady, like a lighthouse beam moving across the black ocean. The ship creaks under your feet, a constant reminder that it's alive in its own creaky, weathered way. You try to focus on the rhythm, the slap of water against the hull, tail, the low hum of the sails flapping, the occasional call of a seabird flying home to roost. It's almost peaceful, almost, but this is a pirate ship, so peace is just a lull before chaos. The truth is, you wouldn't last a day here if you were hoping for calm. The life of a pirate is a tangled web of fear, fun, and failure. You might think pirates just chased gold and drank rum, but the real day-to-day involves grit, grime, and a steady dose of misery. Think of it as a never-ending audition for a play you never wanted to join. Your muscles ache from hauling ropes and balancing on slippery decks. Every breath tastes like brine and sweat. Your clothes are salt-stiff, and your boots heavy with seawater. When you move, the ship rocks and pitches like an angry beast, making every step a gamble between grace and disaster. And then there's the smell. Oh, the smell. A mixture of seaweed, sweat, stale ale, tea, and something vaguely like old cheese, rotting quietly in a forgotten corner. You try to ignore it, but it clings to your skin and your thoughts. At this moment, you spot a flicker on the horizon, a glint, maybe a sail catching the last rays of sunlight, or perhaps just a trick of the light. Your heart speeds up. Is it friend or foe, merchant ship, or Navy patrol? Maybe a rival crew with worse intentions. The captain appears beside you without warning, as if summoned by your rising pulse. No use staring. Either it's nothing or trouble, he says, voice low and gravelly, but keep your wits sharp. Trouble's usually the default setting around here. You nod, trying to look braver than you feel. You're suddenly very aware of every pirate on deck, some sharpening knives, others whispering plans that might or might not exist, and a few just staring into the dusk with haunted eyes. Mainstream. Historical fact. Pirate crews were often a volatile mix of desperate outlaws, skilled sailors, and dreamers, each with their own agenda. Life on board was governed by a strict, if brutal, code to keep order and prevent mutiny, because a pirate ship without discipline was just a floating death trap. But discipline here isn't like the Navy's polished routine. It's rough and raw, enforced by fear, loyalty, Kata, and the occasional threat of a cutlass. You catch a glimpse of the quartermaster, the captain's right hand, pacing nearby. His job is as much about doling out punishments as it is about dividing treasure fairly. You wouldn't want to be on his bad side. As the sky darkens, the flicker you saw fades, swallowed by the growing night. You feel a strange relief and, maybe a little disappointment. The sea is vast and full of stories, and you're right in the middle of one. The moon rises, pale and watchful, illuminating the deck in silver. The sounds change, the creaks grow quieter, and the ocean's song turns gentle. You lean against the railing, letting your thoughts drift, imagining lands you'll never see, friends you'll never meet, and a future that might not include tomorrow. Suddenly, the sharp clang of the ship's bell snaps you back to reality. A signal from the crow's nest, something approaching fast. You scramble to your feet, adrenaline flooding your veins. The crew hustles, weapons drawn, faces set with grim determination. Is it a Navy ship, another pirate crew, or just a merchant vessel too unlucky to cross your path? The night is full of possibilities. None of them are good for you. Quirky tidbit. Pirates often use clever tricks to disguise their ships. Painting sails black or flying false flags to confuse enemies or lure prey. Sometimes these tricks led to hilarious misunderstandings, like a heavily armed pirate ship being mistaken for a harmless fishing boat. Unfortunately, the mistaken prey rarely got a happy ending. Historians still argue whether these deceptions were a widespread practice or just occasional cleverness born of necessity. Either way, the element of surprise was key to survival. You tighten your grip on the railing, heart pounding, ready for whatever's coming. Because one thing's for sure, on a pirate ship, you're never safe, and you certainly wouldn't last a day without nerves of steel and maybe a little luck. The night deepens, folding the world into a velvet blanket stitched with stars. The ship rocks gently beneath your feet, a cradle that could just as easily be a coffin. You've survived days of salt spray and sunburn, of teasing seas and lurking threats, but this final watch is different. It feels heavy with unspoken endings and promises yet to be broken. You lean on the rail, tracing constellations your tired mind barely recalls from childhood. The cold air sharpens your senses, making every creak, every whisper of wind feel like a secret conversation between the sea and the sky. You imagine the stories these stars have witnessed: voyages lost, battles won, lives ended and begun anew. The pirates around you move like shadows, some lost in their thoughts, others restless and ready. The ship feels alive, a breathing entity, old and wise, but also dangerously unpredictable. You realize that despite the endless hardship, there's a strange beauty here, something raw and real that no landlocked life could ever offer. You think back to the first moment you set foot on this ship, naive, hopeful, maybe a little foolish. The harsh lessons came fast, the unbearable smells, the relentless labor, the thin line between brotherhood and betrayal. You remember the sting of salt on your cracked skin, the awkward dance on slippery decks, the chorus of laughter mixed with curses. And yet, there was a rhythm, a dark kind of harmony. Pirates might seem like wild, reckless rogues, but their lives were ruled by codes, rituals, and unspoken rules. They forged communities in the middle of nowhere, with loyalty as fragile as driftwood, but as vital as air. You never knew if the next sunrise would bring gold or gunfire, but every moment was lived in full, raw, fierce, and utterly unforgiving. The captain's voice drifts to you from the shadows, low and commanding. Remember, this life chooses you as much as you choose it. The tea is not for the faint-hearted. You nod, understanding that the ocean's call is both a promise and a curse. The sea can swallow you whole, or it can set you free. You walk to the bow, the chill biting at your fingers. The horizon blurs between sea and sky, endless and unknowable. You clutch the Kraken talisman tight, a strange comfort against a vast unknown. Your mind drifts to all the stories you've heard on board Ghost. Ships that appear, then vanish. Phantom islands swallowed by reefs. Crews lost to madness or mutiny. Each tale is a thread in a tapestry of pirate life, woven with truth, myth, and fear. Mainstream historical fact. Pirate ships operated with a surprising level of democracy for their time, often electing captains and dividing loot according to agreed shares. This practical approach kept power balanced and motivated the crew, even in the face of constant danger. Yet, beneath the surface of this camaraderie lay brutal realities: disease, harsh discipline, and the ever-present threat of death. Not everyone made it back, okay? Many left scars, visible or hidden, that would never fully heal. As you settle into the quiet hum of the ship at night, you feel the weight of history pressing in. You are part of something bigger, legacy of rebellion and survival on the harshest stage imaginable. You realize you wouldn't last a day on this pirate ship, but you've glimpsed what it takes to endure. The night whispers its secrets. Somewhere, far off, a distant bell tolls, soft and mournful, like a ghost's farewell. You close your eyes, letting the sound fade into the background hum of waves and wind. It's time to let go. Turn off the lights, grab a cozy blanket, and get ready, 'cause our journey tonight has come to an end. And as you drift to sleep, remember, the sea is patient, and so are stories. Sweet dreams. The ocean's breath slows as the ship rocks gently in the dark. The harsh clangs and calls of the day are gone, replaced by a calm so deep it feels like the world itself is exhaling. You can almost hear the waves humming a lullaby, wrapping the ship in a soft, watery embrace. Your body sinks into the deck's rough wood, the roughness softened by the weight of weariness in the cool night air. Every worry and fear, every harsh word and hard lesson begins to melt away under the vast, starlit sky. Out here, there's no hurry, no demands, just the gentle pulse of the sea and the endless dance of moonlight on water. The salt air fills your lungs, crisp and clean, carrying with it the scent of possibility and peace. You think of the pirates, those fierce souls who chose this life, how they lived fast and hard, laughed in the face of danger, and embraced the unknown. They were survivors, rebels, dreamers. And now, you are part of their story, if only for a moment. So, rest now. Let the waves carry your thoughts far away from the chaos of the day. Let the quiet night soothe your mind and cradle your dreams. The pirate ship may be a harsh place, but tonight sings a softer song, one of endings and beginnings, of mystery and calm. Sleep well, and when you wake, carry a little of the sea's wild spirit with you. Good night, traveler.